Industry Insider coming to you from the new headquarters for, I guess it's SPA, or themusic.com.au, but everything you do. Leigh Treweek joining me. How are you, mate?
Very, very well. Good to be here.
Thanks very much for giving us your time. After we tried to get you a big sound last week, but it's just way too busy for delegates and speakers. We're lucky we got it, who we did at the start of the week, to be honest.
Absolutely a crazy time. One of the best big sounds I've been to, but yeah, there wasn't a minute where we weren't all doing something, that's for sure.
Yeah, and it was a really great event. And what did you take from it up there? What was your reason for being up there this time around?
I think for us, it's a great opportunity for our journalists. We flew up 5 journalists. We had 2 camera crews up there, and so forth. We did a lot of music sessions. We filmed artists doing 2 songs acoustically. We also interviewed a lot of the speakers and delegates. We actually filmed all of the Q&As and so forth from Big Sound to put up online on themusic.com.au.
Speaking of, what's happening, speakers, delegates, that sort of stuff, with Industry Insider, as you probably already know by now, we like to get a hold of people like yourself. That's everybody else in the music industry doesn't often get to run into, just to have a little bit of chat about your background and leading up to the position you're in now, which is marketing director for Street Press Australia.
Yep.
Yeah. Take us through how you started out in the music biz, mate.
Basically, I'm a fan, I guess. Started going to gigs when I was 15 years old, paying bouncers $20 to get in and pulling out an old fake birth certificate and signing my name on anything to get in to see bands like Die Pretty, The Church, Not Drowning Waving and so forth back in the day. Then it all came about with my brother and I owned a restaurant, and restaurant was doing it a little bit tough, so someone had to go and get a job. So my brother went to work for Impress 14 years ago as their sales and marketing manager, and had an opportunity to step in and buy the magazine with another gentleman back then, Brian Peacock. And about 8 months later, after the restaurant game wasn't going too well for us, I ended up going to work there. And from there, my brother and I had a dream of creating the first national street press. So for the sort of next 7 or 8 years, I saved and sold ads and kept saving, and then were able to buy his business partner out and become business partners. And then from there, it's been sort of slow build. We eventually bought Drum Media up in Sydney, which was the most iconic street press in Australia. We brought on another business partner, Julius Larabina, who had a magazine that went into every high school and was a really good fit. And basically from there, we've grown into doing what we are now, which is the first, own national street press network in Australia. And then just taking all the steps to create what we think will be a sort of one portal for, independent and grassroots artists to be able to come to and promote themselves on a national level.
Yeah, now, I mean, the building of that is amazing, and, it's something obviously never really seen before in Australia. But for me, a couple of years back when you were talking about moving to the online area, that was a big turning point for you guys, wasn't it? From about 2009 till now, you've gone through a massive change. Can you take us through that?
Absolutely. I guess for us, we do things, I guess, a bit slower to everyone else. We, for owning all of the papers, which we did when we had time off, and then Drum Perth, everyone was going online. We took a little bit longer than everyone else. We wanted to wait and see what the landscape and what people were doing. The other thing was we realised that from a single paper in a single state, it was really hard to cut through from an online point of view, and we wanted to have something national. So we had to bear down our national footprint when it came to magazines. Then, of course, there was a quick change in the direction, I guess, of print media. And from that, our first step into online, I guess, was creating the Daily Spar, which is our newsletter. That was incredibly successful very quickly, and that came about from, the purchase of a list when we bought the Australian Music Industry Directory and the URL, themusic.com.au. We saw that, Phil had always done an industry-based newsletter. We took that on and, has grown it from there. From there, we wanted to build a great website. We thought it would take us 6 months. It took us 2.5 years. And it's still got a long way to go. We've still got another 3 stages to launch of that website. So our next step was we were seeing magazines go to the iPad. That had taken, we had a really good look at that and thought, well, okay, there's a progression for us that's natural. We're a magazine in print, the magazine at the online store, on the iTunes store for the iPad, and that seemed to be a perfect fit for us. We went out, we developed an iPad-only magazine called 3, and then we put all of our regular titles onto the iPad. We were incredibly successful in that. We had, one of our magazines, 3, was voted in the top 20 magazines in the world by the New York Times. all of our iPad apps for the Drum, Impress, Time Off and Drum Media Perth sit in the top 10% iPads in the world. We're heading towards 45,000 downloads of all of those magazines. And then the last step was, I guess, the music.com.au and going online with that. That was, we have so much content. We're very different, I guess, to a lot of the other websites in the sense that, we create over 3,000 stories a week, where it comes from announcements to the actual feature articles we're doing, whether it be the streams and so forth. So there's a lot of content. So it's taken us a while to get there. We've got the first level of it up. It's going incredibly well. It's been incredibly successful for us. There's a lot more to it. We'll launch a gig guide in the coming months, which will be the biggest gig guide ever launched online in Australia. Purely not because we can do it any better than any of the other websites, but the historical sense of having magazines. We've got venues that still fax in their gigs. Not every not every venue has changed in that way. There's still venues that are so used to just faxing in their gigs. They're not sitting on a computer. Some of the old venue owners just like to write the names of the bands down, fax it through to us, and we put it up. So, we've got that historical sense of being sent gigs. That'll go online. There's a lot more to come, I guess, with what we're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, with the growing of this going online, can you talk about the next 3 platforms that you're looking at, apart from the gig guide, obviously?
I guess the gig guide is one of the important things. We'll be launching a mobile app as well from a gig guide point of view. We'll also be developing a couple of things that I guess I can talk about closer to the point, but that will be an incredible vehicle for independent bands to be heard and young bands to be able to promote themselves. Also, the ability for them to create their own touring circuit and understand where their fans are actually based around Australia and hopefully international. But everything that we do from an online point of view, is really, we want to create opportunities. And I think that's the most important thing, to create opportunities for bands to have a pathway to be heard, to be seen, and to grow. So the next 2 phases of the website is to create those and give them opportunities there to do it. Yeah. And I think it'll be, watch the space. It'll be quite. We're bringing in some great partners and some bigger partners. Hopefully, will come and get involved in this, but it'll create great opportunity.
Absolutely. Now, the other thing I wanted to talk to you about was the panel you were on. Are artists getting paid too much? How did that go for you?
Listen, it was an interesting one. I must say that when Asho asked, said, "Can you do this panel and facilitate this panel?" and had people like Ken West and Bill Cullen on I thought it was going to be, a little bit explosive. There might have been some punches thrown like that old Ray Martin show where there was a punch on. But it seemed pretty tame. But I think it is, when I first heard the question, I was like, no, that can't be. But, listening to both the guys talk and the agents talk, there are some artists out there, from an international level that may be asking too much money, which is causing a concern to promoters and the competitiveness nature of agents and so forth, trying to get what's best for their artist. But I think we heard some, it's up online now on the music, and I think we heard some great things from, the agents talking about for their artists that it's not always about the money, it's actually about making sure there's a pathway for the artist and that the artist has been put on the right festivals or doing the right shows for where they're at, rather than going too quick early and being gone in a year, actually sustaining a career. And from the festival promoters' point of view, I think, where we're at now, sort of 2 years down the track with a couple of artists, they're a little bit more now, no, we're not going to pay you those huge dollars. We need to see value in what we're doing. So we'll prefer to, rather than having a single big headline, we'll create a much more depth to our lineup, but maybe not have that massive headline anymore.